Minnesota beat Washington 20-17. It was Kirk Cousins' first game back at Washington against his old team that did not want him once upon a time. Kirk won. That's cool. It's a fun storyline. But the biggest storyline to me was that Taylor Heinicke did not do enough playing quarterback for Washington to convince that team Washington to keep Carson Wentz on the bench. If Taylor Heinicke, their quarterback coming off the bench with Carson injured, who's been kind of a pseudo-starter before, led them to a playoff victory once upon a time. Did they win a playoff game or did they just really challenge Tampa? I can't remember. But they made a little bit of a run with Taylor Heinicke once upon a time. If Taylor Heinicke in this football game had 3 touchdowns and 300 yards and won this game, that would have made things really, really tough on Washington, where they would go, maybe we should keep playing Taylor because he's playing great. But the reality is that Taylor Heinicke kind of let them down. He was 15 for 28 passing, had 149 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. And the interception he had was really costly because Washington was up 17-10 in the fourth quarter. And Heinicke made a really poor throw over the middle. The ball went high, got picked off. That led to a Vikings touchdown, tied the game at 17. And I love Taylor Heinicke. I'm a big fan. I support the guy. I love his story. I root for him. And I'm also not really sure that Carson Wentz would have come in and done better than Taylor Heinicke. But here's the problem. You're paying Carson Wentz a ton of money. And unless Taylor Heinicke is killing it, 3 touchdowns, 300 yards, and winning games, then you're not going to... The only reason to keep Carson on the bench is if Taylor Heinicke's doing incredible. If Taylor Heinicke is not, which he is not killing it, you got to stay with Carson Wentz when Carson becomes healthy because you're paying him too much money to sit on the bench. In fact, Taylor Heinicke had a wild completion for 49 yards to Curtis Samuel for a touchdown. It wasn't really a good decision. It was a throw up into triple coverage. He kind of got lucky it was completed. That really padded his numbers. I mean, without that catch, Taylor Heinicke would have been 14 for 28 with only 100 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. I have no doubt Carson Wentz can perform that way. And if you want a guy to throw balls in a triple coverage, Carson could do that all day. I've walked away, unfortunately, really disappointed that Taylor Heinicke didn't really grab the moment by the horns and just run away with it. They lost. He didn't play great. And I think at this point, you got to go back to Carson Wentz when he's healthy. Now, Minnesota is 7-1. They got a massive lead in the NFC North. They just traded for tight end TJ Hawkinson. He already has made a big impact. In this game, TJ Hawkinson had 9 catches for 70 yards, and he's still learning the offense. Can you imagine in a couple weeks when he's really fully caught up? A lot of people, when Minnesota traded for tight end TJ Hawkinson, a lot of people said he was overrated. And I just think those people are dead wrong. I totally disagree. This was a massive trade. It was a big deal. I have no idea why Detroit decided to send TJ Hawkinson to Minnesota. But, man, it's going to be a massive move for them, and he's going to make a big impact as the year goes forward. Now, the game ended in an unfortunate way for Washington. The Vikings kicked a field goal with 1:55 left on the 4-yard line. And, the kick was good, but the problem was Washington got a penalty for unnecessary roughness to hit the long snapper. That gave Minnesota a first down on the 2-yard line and allowed them, with that first and goal situation, to run the clock all the way out before kicking a field goal with 12 seconds left and getting that 20-17 lead. So basically that meant Washington had no time left to respond. The Vikings won 2017, and I think there's a good shot after this game, watching and kind of observing the year Minnesota's had. They're absolutely contenders, man. I don't know that they're going to win a Super Bowl and beat Buffalo or Kansas City. But they could get to the dance. And also, you never know. I just watched Josh Allen have a really bad day against the Jets. I mean, you get to the Super Bowl, anything can happen. You have a couple things go your way. You play really well. You have your best day of your life. And you're Nick Foles winning a Super Bowl beating Tom Brady. I mean, I think there's a great shot we're going to see in the NFC title game, Minnesota against Philly, playing to go to the Super Bowl. And if you're right there, I think the Vikings have a shot at a Super Bowl. They're really awesome. They're 7-1. They're even better now with TJ Hawkinson. They're so dangerous to play. I mean, Dalvin Cook at running back. You've got Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen, TJ Hawkinson, receiving weapons everywhere. And Kirk Cousins. I talked last episode about someone wrote in on Patreon. I think it was ENK. Shout out to him. If you're on Patreon, you're awesome. ENK wrote in with a question saying, are we too hard on Russell Wilson, the quarterback in Denver? And my answer is no. I think people should be very critical of Russell Wilson. He's kind of weird. He's kind of aloof. But I see a lot of parallels between Kirk Cousins and Russell Wilson. They're kind of both goofy, really religious, and super nice family men, and they always say the right thing, or at least try to. There's a bit of cheesiness to both Russ and Kirk Cousins, but here's the difference between Kirk Cousins and Russell Wilson. Kirk has kind of an edge, and we're starting to see more of it as the year goes on. He's always said that quote, "You like that?" Which is such a funny way for a Midwest guy to talk trash, right? But we're seeing more and more of Kirk Cousins' personality. You see moments of him celebrating with a chain on. You see him beating his old team. I really like the more we see of Kirk Cousins' personality and kind of the edge, the authenticity of him to be like, yeah, man, I want to win. I'm angry. I hate my failures on Monday Night Football. I want to show the world what I can do. And I think that this year's Kirk Cousins, doing the gritty in the locker room and having chains on and doing silly stuff, that's the moments you're missing with Russell Wilson. There's a lot of parallels between Russ and Kirk Cousins. They're both goofy, really family friendly. They're like Disney Channel stars that play quarterback in the NFL, but Kirk has a little bit more of an edge and more authenticity that we just don't see from Russell Wilson. So I find Kirk highly likable, and I'm excited for the future of the Vikings this year. I think they've got a chance to make a really deep run and maybe even win a Super Bowl. By the way, last thing worth shouting out in this football game, it's worth mentioning Washington had these really cool all-black uniforms. Black uniforms, black helmets. I don't have much more to say, but I thought it looked really clean. I like the look. All black is awesome. And the way, the Washington on the front, it just looked really cool. I like the all black uniforms that Washington wore on Sunday.